Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of In the Treehouse, where we get to have some genuine, authentic conversations with business owners, kind of finding out what their dreams are, what dreams they started their life with, challenges, what they're doing today, and just kind of life in general. A chance to get to know each other. Learn a little bit more than what just their business is. And so I'm excited you are joining us again this week. This week, I have a very special friend. I know I always say everybody's a special friend of mine, but I have a lot of friends, which is a good thing. And I enjoy getting together with them. Today is a chance for us to get to know Brandon Lee a bit. Brandon is truly a good friend of mine. We have known each other for several years now. I've had the opportunity to work with Brandon for several years now as he has been building this business of Fist Bump and growing it, adding staff, making it much more impactful in the marketplace. And so I really count it a privilege to call him a friend and a client. And as we start today, I just want to call out that Fist Bump is a sponsor of this show. They are the nuts and bolts and everything behind this show. They support me in so many ways in making it happen, and there are so many people behind us who are doing it. The reason that they are there and the reason that they are a sponsor of the show is because they help individuals like myself to become that person through LinkedIn, through other social platforms as the expert, as the person who is working with individuals who are out there in their ideal marketplace, getting to be known. And so I thank them for their work with me in developing this. If you are wanting to become a known entity in your marketplace, if you're wanting to be known as the expert, which you are in the marketplace, I strongly encourage you to reach out to Brandon and his team and talk with them about how they can help you. They are great people. And so I thank them. And with that, I am going to introduce Brandon again, longtime friend, client. We've walked a path over the past several years in getting to know each other. But Brandon, as with every guest who comes on the show, my first question is, and when you were a kid, right? 5, 6, 12, however old, what was your treehouse and what did you dream about when you were out playing in that treehouse or that fort or whatever?
Yeah, well, Michael. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for your friendship, and I'm glad to be able to serve you and share a little bit. But my treehouse was a field. It generally always, had weeds that were like taller than we were. So we would go and run around out there. We would play hide and go seek. We played tag. But the really cool part was, as we got a little bit older, is we actually dug holes. We covered them with plywood, and then we created all these tunnels. And we built like this. I think it was. Did everybody remember that book, like Watership Down, about the rabbits and all their tunnels? Yeah. It may have been influenced by that. But we create all these tunnels and we play out there all day long. I mean,
where were you? Because you live in Georgia now, but that was not here in Georgia.
That was in Southern California. I was just outside of LA.
Okay. Very good.
So we had great weather all year round to go do that. And, as Gen Xers, it was Saturday morning, especially in the summer, it was, get your butt up. They'd feed us and they'd say, go play and come home when the lights come on. And that's what we did.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And so as you were doing that, who were some of your best buddies at that time?
Oh, pretty simple. I had Mike Robb and Mark Sewell were my two buddies I grew up with from K through 6, and they lived like just down the street from me. And then there was a bunch of other like kids on the neighborhood in the neighborhood that we would play with, and we did all kinds of stuff. I mean, we played soccer. We'd ride our bikes. We threw, and I always got to remember the name of the tree. I forget. I'm gonna have to write it down. But there was a tree that had these green, when they were green, like hard. They were round. They had spikes all over them. Maybe somebody out there knows what kind of tree it is. So we would go and pick up all those and stick them in and buckets, and then throw them at each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to say you got into some mischief.
we got a little. We were overall. I think we were pretty good kids. But yeah, we'd throw things at each other. We'd wrestle. We'd some every now and then someone would get in fights. But nothing serious. I mean, gosh, I think the worst thing we ever did was like throw water balloons at
Yeah,
strangers or ding dong ditch people or something. We were pretty
yeah,
good kids.
yeah. What were what were you dreaming you wanted to be at that stage?
I think for me, like I think a lot of young boys that age, professional athlete was on my radar. Of I
Yeah,
love soccer, and soccer was my escape. But um, I think as I got older, I would say that entrepreneurship is all. It's like I believe that God created me to be a business owner, a business
yeah,
creator.
yeah,
Um, my brain works that way. I think I'm very innovative. I see things. I go, oh, we should go do that,
yeah,
and I did
yeah,
that as a kid. Like I coordinated soccer tournaments in our neighborhood, and we made up games, or I would
yeah,
make up games and create things like that. So I didn't really dream of any specific business. Like all things aside, I would love to have been a professional soccer player, but that wasn't going to happen. But I liked creating stuff. I liked
yeah,
organizing things. I
yeah,
liked putting something together that my friends would have fun with. And if they were having fun, I felt like I did a good job.
yeah. No, I think that's awesome, and that creativity, that pursuit of fun, really developed into some of your earliest businesses. You know,
Yeah, I mean, I I walked up and down the street with my lawnmower and mowed lawns.
uh-huh,
Um, and part of it was money, and part of it was just why not? Like
yeah,
I enjoyed it. I had a
yeah,
paper route from, I think I was probably in about fourth or fifth grade until eighth grade, until I started
yeah,
high school. I had a paper route, and all that came with that, like knocking on doors, asking people if they wanted to pay for the newspaper, and
yeah.
um, coming. I'd had to come home from school every day and fold my papers, put them in a bag, put them on my bike, and go deliver them, and then sometimes especially on Sundays, I'd reward myself. I'd ride my bike to the donut shop, and I'd sit in there with some of the old guys that were in there BS, and I'd sit there with my hot chocolate and my donut, and they'd talk to me like, "What are you doing? Huh? Got a paper route." And I thought I was
Yeah,
cool hanging out with the old guys at the donut shop.
yeah,
Uh, yeah.
that's cool. So, what was the first business? Because those were businesses. But what
Mhm.
was the first business that you actually started?
Well, when I was a junior in high school, so this has been like 1986, 87 time frame. I think I was a junior, senior. Um, personal computers were just coming out. And you all
Yeah,
remember the keyboard covers and the computer covers, the vinyl, they were like
yeah,
static resistant covers to keep dust out. Well, I saw those and I thought, wow, that would be really cool to be able to, again, my soccer player, like that would be really cool if I had one of those with my, Manchester United, my favorite soccer team's logo on it.
uh-huh,
And this was early stages of what's now called like licensed sports products.
yeah,
And I thought that would be really cool. And
yeah,
so I found someone, I had my paper route and other things that I did for work. I shoveled asphalt for my dad's company in the summers. And I found a company that created canvas awnings. And
yeah,
I went and met with the woman that owned it and told her what I was looking for. And I paid her to create a prototype for me of I gave her the dimensions for a cover for the computer and a cover for the keyboard, and they were really, really rough prototypes. And then I took it and I started calling some local colleges to see what it would take for me to be able to put their logo on it and sell it at their bookstores.
Yeah.
And I never really got it out the door. I mean, I paid money for prototypes. I made some calls. I drove around to, I mean, I literally walked into bookstores at colleges and said, "Hey, I got this idea. What would it take?" And I had some people that were like, "Wow, good for you." They're like, "Well, here's what our logo looks like. If you
Yeah.
want to go make a few and show us what they look like." And, but I just couldn't get it all together. And
Yeah.
so, really the first company that where I made money, my freshman year of college, I had a relative, I don't know, aunt, cousin, somebody, my mom's one of seven children, and my grandfather was one of 10, and my grandmother was one of 12 or something. So lots of family. They're all like aunts, uncles, cousins. Anyway, they had a clothing line. And so I was able to take, on consignment, I took some of their clothes, like beachwear, shorts, t shirts, things like that, and sold it out of my dorm room at school. And I did that for a few years.
Yeah.
And, it was, I just enjoyed it. And yeah,
Yeah.
I liked the money of it. But for me, it was more of like if I could see something that looked fun and would add value to people, I was like, let's try it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely awesome because, we talk about sales and we talk about how you sell. And I think when you are selling just a product, it's no fun. When you're selling something that you enjoy and that the person will enjoy, then it becomes fun. And it's not like you're trying to sell something, and that sounds like where you were going.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had my moments in throughout my career where I've gotten more salesy than other times and things like that. But yeah, I think overall I'm usually pretty curious about what people need or what they would like, or like, hey, I created it to do this. Is that like align with what you're thinking that you would need? Like, I'm generally pretty curious, and I think the way my brain works too is I can see things connecting to each other and do my best to kind of bring it together and help people be able to cast vision for their own solution.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. So I want to get into at some point you left Southern California and you
Hmm.
may have had some stops in between, but
I
you
did.
landed up in the Northwest in
Mhm.
Idaho and you created a business up there.
Yeah, yeah. I started the company in Southern California. So I went to college in Claremont, California, just outside of LA. And after I finished, I went to Colorado. I had a job in the marketing department at Vail Ski Resort. And then I went to graduate school in Texas. After graduate school, I wanted to be fluent in Spanish, so I went to Mexico. And initially, I went for a 6 week that turned into a 9 month stay in Mexico. And then when I came back from Mexico, I ended up back in California. I had a job, and during that job, I met some guys that had an idea for a startup. And I already kind of shared a little bit about who I am, so I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I had no
Yeah.
idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
Um, and Megan and we got married, and like three months before we got married, I quit my job and started a company.
Yeah.
Not the smartest person in the world, um, but
But you
we
were
ran
young. How
that.
old were you at the time?
I was 28, so
28.
28 to 30. I was a first employee, and I earned 5% equity in that company with two founders, and learned a lot. I wore a bunch of hats. I learned a ton. Learned a ton of what I should do. Learned some of what I didn't want to do. We
Tell
sold
tell
it.
us tell us one thing from that one thing you learned that, oh my gosh, every time you start a business, you got to do this. And what's one
Mhm.
thing every time you start a business, don't do this?
Yeah. So what I learned with that, and I don't. I want to be respectful. They gave me an opportunity. They were probably 5 years older than me, and they gave me an opportunity. And granted, they didn't pay me much, and I worked my butt off. But what I learned was you need partners that you're more similar than different. I didn't, as I got into further business with them, I didn't like or agree with their ethics or lack
Yeah.
of.
Okay.
I wasn't very well aligned with them,
Yeah.
and that made it difficult. Just because my own personal integrity was at stake. So I learned you've always got to be in business with people that there's foundational alignment, or else it's going to be a challenge. At least for me, my
Yeah.
integrity is important to me. So that's one thing of not to do. Uh, I think when I look at my successes compared to my failures, one of the things is have small plans and do them well and do them right and do them consistent and then expand.
Yeah.
When I've done that, I can see a pattern of success. When I wasn't that focused, I was much wider. I could see a pattern of flailing and failure.
Yeah. Yeah. So couple of things that I heard in that I want to re- repeat kind of in my terminology. One is, um, when you are in business, focus on what you do well, do that well, make sure you're doing it well before you start doing all the other things that you could do. Spreading yourself too thin initially is a recipe for disaster. Right?
Yeah,
Is that fair?
it is. And I think when I was younger, I had the advantage of lack of experience, and it
Uh,
forced me to get really focused. I didn't realize how narrow I was because I was still learning.
yeah.
And after I had sold a few companies and then I started a company, I allowed myself to think big and wide too
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
Nothing really resonated or worked because I wasn't niched enough. I wasn't focused enough. So, the
Yeah.
expression, if you try to talk to everybody, you talk to no one.
Yeah.
I would say that some of my failures were because of that. My previous success gave me a little bit of overconfidence, maybe a little bit of arrogance, and maybe a little bit of just lack of focus.
Yeah.
But I didn't
No.
realize I was lack of focus because I'm like, yeah, let's go do this,
Yeah. Oh,
even
we
though
can
I'm
do anything. We can conquer the world. Let's do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you can, but what's the expression? How do you eat an elephant?
Yeah.
One
One
bite at
bite
a
at a time.
time.
Yeah. I
And
think the other thing I heard you say is don't do it alone, right? You need to have partners. You need to have people who are there and supporting you. And but you need to make sure that those partners align with your values,
yeah,
right? Don't just bring on partners just because there are partners, or because they feel good or they're a good friend or anything like that. They've got to be aligned with your vision and your values in your business,
mhm,
and supporting you is do that. And that's
yeah,
what I heard you kind of say.
yeah,
In a I didn't do this. This is what I need to do is make sure that I have partners aligned with my values and
yeah.
my vision.
Well, in that early experience, the first company I was an owner in, made me nervous moving forward. So my second company, I had a few investors, like angel investors. So I had other people with equity, but I maintained control. I had controlling interest, and it
Yeah,
wasn't that I wanted to be controlling. It was just I felt like when I was in control, at least I can control what was going on. And I was very
yeah,
open to ask, other people their opinions and their feedback and what would you do? And I could at least control that and be that
yeah,
way. But when I didn't have controlling interest and decisions were being made that I ethically or morally didn't really agree with, it put me in a really hard spot because I'm like,
yeah,
do I leave the company and leave my equity? Or do I
mm,
stay and keep fighting for what I think is right?
Yeah.
So
No. Yeah. So you left that, started a couple other businesses, and then you started one that just was a tremendous success.
yeah, so my second company, it was called By Design Publishing. We were an agency. We created what I called personalized custom magazines. And what that meant was we ended up with four different magazines by different topics or themes. And we created a web application. We started this in 2002, but we created a website where our customers could log in and they would be able to personalize the four covers of the magazine.
Yeah.
So we would take like the body of the magazine was like 48-page home and decor magazine that was called Home by Design. That was our main magazine. And then our customers could use a web portal, a web application, to choose designs to customize their own cover so it represented them. So in your case, it would be Michael Connor's Home by Design magazine,
Yeah.
or Life by Design, or Your Home and Lifestyle, or we had a wine and food magazine that we called Swirl and Sip. So maybe it's something you'd want to share, send to your
Yeah.
CEO customers. So it would be Michael Connor's Swirl and Sip magazine. The cover would have a little picture of you on the front bottom corner, like a full size cutout picture, your name on it, the main picture. Then the inside cover, the inside back cover, and the outside back cover were yours to design. Not design, you could choose templates and write your own content, or for the really
Yeah.
sophisticated ones, they could load a PDF and that would become the cover. So the covers were yours, it was your local business. The guts of the magazine, if you will, we would print in large quantities and it was the same for everybody. What were we doing?
Yeah.
We were helping small business owners use content consistently to stay top of mind, build a reputation for themselves, so that when they did pick up a phone and call somebody and say, hey, I'd like to talk about coaching or selling your home or law services, all the professional services, they were more likely to go, oh yeah, Michael, I get your magazine all the time. Yeah, what do let's talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that I think there was a bit of luck. There was a bit of
Yeah.
good timing. I think it was a good product. That company took off, and we went from startup to 18 million in revenue in
Wow.
5 years.
Wow. That's awesome. So
It was fun.
so at the time, I mean, 2002, I think back to, what I was doing and where the internet was and all that sort of thing. And, I mean, that was about when Al Gore was inventing the internet, right? I mean, it was
Pretty
all
much.
pretty new at the time. I know it's just, but it was all new and it was very innovative. I think the missing piece, and you kind of touched on it there, that you were innovating was not the technology, but it was the personal branding that you were bringing to people and the
Yeah.
importance of a personal brand. And you were implementing that for all sorts of small businesses before they even know what a personal brand was. Is
Yeah.
that fair to say?
It's very fair to say. In fact, I'm in Egypt right now with my team here for Fist Bump, and we had a meeting this morning talking about some of our language and messaging that we use. And I never know what to do with personal branding because our best customers tend to be Gen X and baby boomer business owners.
Yeah.
And so personal branding as a term isn't a term that we really ever used before. But I can go all the way back to 2002 and say, wow, there's a string that goes through my entire career that is consistent, and it's I've used content to send to people in order to consistently build reputation and stay top of mind,
Yeah.
so that when my client does reach out to somebody, that person goes, I know you. I feel like I
Right.
know you. Thank you. Let's talk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with that company, yeah, we had over 10,000 customers, realtors, lawyers, chiropractors. I think the big fun thing I did with that company was that I created Good Neighbor magazine for State Farm. and
Wow.
thousands of their State Farm agents around the United States. I think that was back in like 2005.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't want to go away from this idea of you innovating and perhaps even, to a large degree, inventing the idea of a personal brand way back then,
Mhm.
right? And you have 23, 24 years now
Yeah.
of doing this very thing. There is, in the marketplace, there are a lot of people out there who say that they'll come and help you with your personal brand, right?
Hmm.
And they've been doing it for 6 months, right?
Yeah.
I want, I want to brag on you a bit because you're one of my heroes, and this is why I work with Fist Bump, because I want the best, the ones who have done it historically, to be
Yeah.
working on my personal brand, because you've been there and you've experienced it and you know what works and you know what doesn't work. And so, if you think about this 25-year span of helping individuals develop their personal brand, you know,
Mhm.
where have you come to see today that people need to focus, and what works and what doesn't work?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Look, I've got two very direct, controversial things that I'll say, and people don't want to hear it, especially our generation. Gen X to baby boomers. But number one, I'd say is that if you're a CEO or an owner of a company in 2025, and you're not actively using LinkedIn, you're leaving millions of dollars on the table. And here's why. LinkedIn, and it's not because, oh, I do LinkedIn stuff, therefore. No, I do LinkedIn stuff because I see LinkedIn as being so powerful and inexpensive and inefficient compared to other things. Look, LinkedIn is the most influential business platform of the 21st century. I mean, granted, we're 25 years into the century, but for the first 25 years, anyone, anything, any other business platform that's more influential than LinkedIn?
Yeah.
I doubt it, right? Therefore, if you're a CEO of a company in 2025 and you're not actively learning how to leverage this platform to help benefit your business, you're failing your job.
Mm, wow.
You're failing your job. I believe very soon, and it's getting closer, having a active, thriving personal brand should be a part of a CEO job description. Now, here's
Interesting.
here's why I say that. I mean, there's all kinds of data. Um, you know, I just read another one today. It was a post by a CEO was 565% more engaged than the post made by the company. What does that mean? People
Yeah.
want to engage with people. We don't engage with brands unless, I
Yeah.
mean, in B2B world and consumers, yeah, we fall in love with Apple, we fall in love with Coke. But we actually fall in love with people better. We our hearts remember people better. I mean,
Yeah.
so on a
Yeah.
consumer side, Cristiano Ronaldo, the soccer player from Portugal, Nike spends tens of millions of dollars a year with him. Why? Well, because he has like 2 billion followers on his
Yeah.
socials, and Nike has
Yeah.
like 2 million.
Yeah.
What does that take? People connect better with human beings than they do with brand messages. That's what makes us human. So here's a second controversial thing that I'll say. And this I believe comes from experience, where there's a lot of people out there who know how to use technically things like LinkedIn. I had a conversation with a business owner yesterday who's hired an agency. They're doing all the right things. They're posting, they're doing the right stuff. but he has no engagement. He has no growth. There's no real value what he's doing. And I said, the challenge we have right now is there's so many companies out here that, yes, technically they know how to create a post, they know how to publish it to LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, but they don't know the nuance of the psychology of people that you've got to put into it that actually gets the engagement, that gets you remembered. And what I've learned over the years, and it differs by industries to a point, but I'm a firm believer that even in B2B, your buyers will first and foremost remember something about your humanity, about you as a
Yeah.
person, way before they're going to remember anything about what you do for a living or the company you work for. So, from a prospecting perspective, if you're doing activities in LinkedIn for the purpose of creating more sales conversations, how do we have the right mix of a bit of my humanity, because we know that's where people remember you,
Yeah.
and a bit of my
Yeah.
business and my value proposition and my offering? And what I believe I see is too many people do it the opposite. It's all about value proposition. What do we do well? Da, 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 da. There's nothing wrong with it. But what I've learned over the years is people don't remember that nearly as well as the human stuff, because
Yeah.
at any given time, only 1 to 2% of your total addressable market are currently in market. So play this story out with me. Everybody, Mike, when was the last time you bought a new car?
Yeah.
Your cool Volvo, right? When I love Volvos, that meant to be said. I love Volvo.
Oh, it's great. I
Yeah,
love my
my
Volvo.
XC90 I had years ago is one of my favorite cars. When we start getting in the market of buying a new car, what happens? Every car that is the car we're thinking of buying, we see it. Our subconscious goes, there it is, there.
Yeah.
Like we see it everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when we lead,
That reticular activating system that I coach
yes.
about. Yeah.
So when we lead content on LinkedIn all about our business, 98 to 99% of our target audience, they're not paying attention. They're not in market. They don't care. They're not paying attention.
Okay.
But our humanity, other humans are always interested in what's going on with other humans, and it's easier for them to remember something about them because of their humanity, their uniqueness versus their value proposition. And I know there's a lot of people out there like, oh, LinkedIn isn't for this. You know what? LinkedIn is about using it to create conversations with humans based on who we want to
Right.
talk to and who we want to get to know. So I use it to
Exactly.
be remembered. And that humanity piece from magazines we did in By Design Publishing back in 2002, all the way to what we're doing with Fist Bump today. The humanity
Yeah.
piece is always the best thing to keep people to know you. And so, yeah, things like Chris Dunn, who's one of our clients, who sends a cold email to somebody, and the guy responds and says, Chris, let's jump on a call. I feel like I already know you because of LinkedIn. I love watching your videos of you and your dog on your morning walks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Argue what you want. LinkedIn's not for personal. Bull. LinkedIn is about how do we use it to create more conversations with our best customers. The
Yeah.
humanity.
How is it we connect with other
That's it.
individuals? People buy from people. Businesses don't buy from businesses. Even big businesses that are buying, it's individuals who are in procurement who are buying from other individuals in another business that's in procurement,
Mhm.
right? Sales are always emotional. Businesses are non-emotional. People are
Yep.
emotional.
There you go.
You know?
Yeah. On
Yeah.
a personal note, I sent a message to somebody last week, and their response was, "Oh my gosh, Brandon, I love your Jeep Thoughts video. I can't wait. Like, when do you want to get on a call?"
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
personal that personal side, that humanity. I use the word humanity because a lot of people don't like personal. But I propose this question for everybody. If you're at a dinner and you got one or two clients there, and you got one or two prospects there, what do you talk about?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a different way. What percent of that conversation is humanity, and what percent of that conversation becomes business?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, most of it's going to be humanity. And even the business piece is going to be, okay, so what can you do for me? Right? It's,
But,
how is your service, how is your product going to make my life better?
and I would say this, in that environment, we're assessing, do I like this person? Do I like them
Yeah.
enough?
Oh,
Do I
absolutely.
like them enough that I'd want to
Absolutely.
have a sales conversation with them? Even if we talk a little bit about business, we're still in that assessing stage, that know,
Yeah.
like, trust stage. So if it goes, we're doing all this and I assess, like, I don't really like this Michael Connor guy, but go, hey,
That never
that'll never
happens, by the way.
happen. But if we're doing that stage and I'm assessing, like, I don't really, and you go, hey, do you want to have coffee next week? I've made an assessment from the personal engagement to decide if I want to
Yep.
have that coffee or breakfast or conversation next week. That's the way we do it in the offline world. I
Yep.
propose the online world is exactly the same. There's human beings on the other side. So
Yeah.
the having a live show and podcast, they start to get to know you. The content that we share from the live show and podcast, they're getting to know you. The other content you
Yeah.
share. Yes, we want to talk about value propositions. I'm not saying take a picture of your meal and post where you're eating like on Facebook, but the humanity is what separates you from everybody else in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, uh, that is why we do this podcast, right? This podcast of In the Treehouse is just about, you know, two individuals or maybe three or however many we bring in, just having these
Yep.
conversations, being ourselves. We're not here trying to instruct, trying to, sell anybody anything. It's really about, let's just get to know one another and allow others to get to know who we
Mhm.
are, because that's how we build who we
Right.
are. So, yeah. So shifting gears here a little bit, Fist Bump has, oh my goodness, since we started working together, um, 18 months ago, almost 2 years ago, I think we've been working together.
I
Um,
I couldn't even tell. I always go, oh, a few months ago, and that could be 2 months ago. It could be 24 months ago. They all run
yeah,
into each other now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we've been working together for quite a while, and the growth that you have experienced in Fist Bump has just been so much fun, right? I mean, when we started working, you did not have your Egypt team, right? And now you've got this whole team over in Egypt that you're spending time
Yeah.
with. You had, a couple of people who were kind of partners that some of them have moved on and some are still with you. And there's been a lot of changes and growth in you personally
Mm.
and the
Yeah.
business. And it's just been
Thank
tremendous.
you.
So, if you are willing to share anything over, because this is a new startup,
Mhm.
right? And every startup has challenges and excitement and all that sort of thing. And so, in this 2020 period, what are some of the things that you're seeing that is just pushing you and challenging you as you're starting a
Mm.
business these days?
I mean, I'll be very honest that the personal branding is so important. Even I keep looking at my content. Like, I'm supposed to be leading. I'm leading Fist Bump, and Fist Bump helps everybody with their personal brand. But I keep finding more stuff for me to learn around personal brand and doing it better, and doing it more. I always hate using the word authentically because it's not very clearly or well defined for most people. Authentically doesn't mean go full open komodo and tell everybody about all your warts. There are
Yeah.
some influencers out there that that's their model, and God bless them, and that's their style, and that's great. But as CEOs of B2B companies, if you hear the word authentic, don't let yourself go down the path of like, oh, I don't want to share all the ugly things in my life. That's not what we're saying. Um, but it's turning this screen medium, bringing your humanity and being real, and that means
Yeah.
that we don't have to perform. We don't have to only show our best. And I think for a lot of us, like, us, our Gen X to baby boomer generation, like we had things that we said, like, fake it till you make it. Like,
Yeah.
pretend you know what you're doing until you figure out what you're doing. And,
Yeah.
and that stuff doesn't really
Yeah.
fly with social media because,
People can see through that inauthenticity real
yeah,
quick.
the BS meters are strong. And so
Yeah.
I think with this company, I've had to push myself on where I thought I was being authentic, and I think I was. I
Uh-huh.
wasn't being disingenuous, but I needed to do it a little bit better, a little bit different. Here's something.
Yeah.
This was very humbling for me and made me think a lot. I was at a networking event. And I got introduced to somebody who has a podcast, and their podcast is basically around people who have overcome challenges in their life. And I got introduced to him because I have my own challenging story, and I was sharing with him a bit about my story. And when I was kind of done sharing, he goes, I want to ask you something, and it's going to sound really rude, and I don't mean it to be rude. I'm like, okay. He said, he said, is your story true? Because your presentation of it was so polished, it felt like it wasn't
uh,
real.
uh,
And at first, I was kind of offended, to be very honest. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't even know
yeah.
you when you said that. But the humble part
Yeah.
of me was like, I gotta take that serious. And what I think
Yeah.
what I took from it is I've learned all the years, like, I mean, I've learned how to be a keynote speaker. And I mean, I grew up trying to be an actor in LA, failed miserably, but I tried. Like, everything was about performance.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
some of my companies, I would give keynote speeches. It's kind of a performance. And he called me on it, and I was like, gosh, I've really perfected telling this story a bit because I felt like the performance was necessary. But we live in a time now
Uh,
where a really good performance like that actually detracts from the message because, like him, he's like, I
yeah.
don't believe you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we're
Wow.
hosting our show, we're doing thought leadership videos, and we're too, it actually
Yeah.
hurts the
Takes
effectiveness.
away from your
Yeah.
message.
People want
Yeah.
real conversations. They want to be in a conversation with us instead of us speaking at people. And those are two really big things that I've learned over the last few years. And honestly, they've been hard because I had decades of doing it one way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
doing a talk. I'm going to be behind a podium. Go do the
Yeah.
best from the stage as you can. And now I think that the style has changed quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that is so good. And I think for people who are listening, is good for them to hear. It's like just be yourself, be authentic. Not that you're spewing everything out
Yeah,
there, but just be who you are. Because especially when we talk about personal brand, if you try and do that other thing, it's going to destroy your
yeah.
personal brand because people will see through it.
Yeah, I think it was probably around 2019, and I was doing some videos, trying to work some LinkedIn content for a company that ultimately failed, didn't work. And I had somebody who was working with me who was probably, I don't know, 15 years younger than me ish, 10, 15, somewhere in there. And I did video and I was like, oh, what do you think? And she's like, oh, it's good. She goes, can I show you like how I would do, or like my generation would do that video? And I said, sure. Now,
Uh-huh.
what I did was like, hey, everybody, I'm Brandon Lee. I'm the CEO of XYZ company, da, 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 da. And I was very polished because that's what we
Yeah.
knew. And she read the
Yeah.
video, the camera, and she kind of slumped down and she looked at it and she goes, we pressed play and she goes, so the other day I was having a conversation with somebody. It was really interesting because what they said was da 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 da, da, and it made me realize, or made me think of blah 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 blah. And I'm just curious, like, what do you guys think about that? Was I right or could I have been wrong? Love to hear what you guys think.
Huh.
And I'm looking at it, and everything in me was like, no, like, what are you doing? It's not polished. It's not like, everything in me was just like, that's not what we learned. That's not from our generation. We learned differently. But she was right. And it just took me a while to get to a point of going, wow, it's changed. Nothing
Yeah.
has really
Yeah.
changed. We just do it differently. Like, connecting with
Yeah.
people is still the standard, but we connect differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So as we wrap up, it's hard to believe we've gone almost an hour. It's like this is just I always enjoy talking with you, but as we as you continue to grow Fist Bump, what are your dreams for the next several years with Fist Bump?
Mhm.
Because you haven't stopped dreaming yet.
No.
So share some of your dreams and where you're going and where we're going to be able to work together, and I'm going to be able to come in and help you to achieve those dreams.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of dreams, and I'll start with some of my kind of selfish dreams, to be honest. I have a team here in Egypt, and I have a team in Argentina, and that's really exciting for me. So that when I work with my team, I get to travel to Egypt, and the office is currently in Cairo, New Cairo. I have dreams of moving the office to what's called Hurghada, Egypt. It's on the Red Sea. It's a beautiful resort area on the
Uh-huh.
Red Sea. Uh, I'd like to move the office there so that when I'm traveling to my office, I get to go to a beautiful location. I'm
Yeah.
excited to go to build out the team in Argentina as well because I speak Spanish and I'd love to do more business in Spanish. So, one of my current
Uh,
goals is that I could do a talk or a webinar or a keynote or something like that in Spanish. That'll push me
uh,
outside my comfort zone, but I'd like to do that.
uh-huh.
Look, right now, our model, um, I lead for lack of a better word, I do workshops that are on, it's a workshop that's like a brain dump and a brainstorm. And then the output becomes a messaging that creates conversation playbook. And
Yeah.
my current system is really simple. Two workshops per month, one virtual and
Yeah.
one live, 5 companies per
Yeah.
workshop. At the end of it, we
Yeah.
give them a playbook. And part of that offering is I help them see and give them a playbook on how to do a live show and a podcast as part of their outreach and turn shows into content and all that. But their other option is they could hire Fist Bump to do it. So we give them everything they need
Yeah.
to implement it themselves, or they can hire us to do it. So our model is 10 companies in the workshop per month, with 2 of those companies coming on as a Fist Bump client. That's our current low level goal. The high level goal is that we do 3 workshops and we add 8 clients per month for Fist
Yeah.
Bump. So those are our growth goals. I do have the personal goal too of I'd like to have clients in every continent except Antarctica because I just don't think we'd find somebody there. But I think that would be really really cool to have clients in different continents and different languages. I
Yeah.
think we've got 5 or 6 languages covered across our current team between Egypt and
Wow.
Argentina. And yeah, my personal mission statement for a lot of years has been I create companies to help business owners take work off their plate and help them make more money. Well,
Yeah.
simultaneously, I like to use my companies to help my team members discover and become a better version of themselves. And that's what excites me. And I like having that. Those are some pretty lofty goals. I'd like to build. I'm not that concerned about revenue, but I'd like to have about 300 clients globally for
Yeah.
Fist Bump and feel like I'm really making a difference in people's lives. I feel like what we do is we take stress off their plate because we have these systems of do it. We call it a done with you, but we do about 90 to 95% of it for you. And that's
Yeah.
designed to take stress off your plate. The output of what we do is designed to help you get more conversations with your ideal customers and therefore
Yeah.
increase your revenue. And that makes a lot of people's lives better so they can provide better for their family. They can go home at night and be less stressed. And I think helping business owners go home with
Yeah.
less stress and helps them become better parents, better spouses, and better humans.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. And I love the fact that I do get to help you to fulfill those dreams. I'm excited
Yeah,
about it. Thank you for sharing
yeah,
that. Thank you for being with me
of
today,
course.
even though you're not here with me
I know.
physically. Uh, if you were here, we'd be sharing a cigar or smoking on my pipe and having a brandy or a bourbon. But we'll do that when you get
I
back.
look forward to that. I was really bummed when I saw the calendar. I'm like, oh man, a Mike show, and I'm not in town. Oh, so
Yeah, but we'll do it, and we'll have you back another time. A couple of things I want to mention before we go. Brandon mentioned that he does workshops. There is one that's coming up on what date here in
March
March?
13th in Alpharetta. Yeah.
March 13th in Alpharetta. And who is actually helping to sponsor that?
Action coach,
It's Action
Michael
Coach.
Horner, action coach.
So, yes, I believe in what they are doing. I believe in how this works. And so, businesses out there who need this, and almost, I don't know of any business out there that doesn't need what you provide.
Yeah.
Look into it, reach out to them, and be there in Alpharetta on March 13th.
Mike, can I say this
And
about the workshop? And look, this isn't a plug. This is just a
I was plugging it. You don't
Yeah,
have
well, this is
to.
just a
Yeah.
recommendation for companies. Look, when it comes to messaging that creates conversations, it's really easy for a lot of us. Like we've been doing this for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. It's easy for us to say we know our clients. But change has happened so much in the last 5 years, especially in a post-COVID. Work culture has changed. There's so much tech that's changed. There's AI that's changed. There's so much change that's taken place. Do you really know what's moving your clients? Do you really know truly what's scaring them, what their goals are? Things have shifted. Think about your own company and where you're thinking
Yeah.
differently than you thought 5 years ago. Your clients are thinking
Yeah.
differently. You may have done ideal customer profile work before, you may have done messaging work before, but I just propose if you haven't done it within the last 5 years, it's probably not as accurate as it needs to be. And then the best thing with the workshop is it's 100% money back guarantee. You don't
Yeah.
10x the revenue from what you spend for the workshop. We'll give you 100% of your money back.
Yeah. Can't
Yeah.
beat that. I can't beat it. So, all right, sir. Thank you so much for being
You're
with
welcome.
me. I am just so absolutely grateful, and look forward to seeing you when you get
I
back.
do as well. We'll have to meet for that pipe and a bourbon.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right.
So, thank you all for joining us here another week in the Treehouse. I am continuing to work on getting the Treehouse expanded and structurally sound so that these episodes can be in the Treehouse. The weather's starting to turn around now, so that we can actually start to do some work and all that, and it may be a lot of fun up there. But thank you for joining me. Look forward to seeing you every week, Wednesdays, 1 o'clock. Have some special guests coming up in the next several weeks, and you don't want to miss them. You can always find us on YouTube, LinkedIn. You can come back and find us here, but YouTube, In the Treehouse is the channel. And please like and subscribe. Means a lot, because the more that we get subscriptions, the more these episodes get out to more people and they can see them. So do me a favor and do that out there. Thanks, Brandon. Safe travels. Give the team